From a leader's perspective, it is extremely important for leaders to be in tune with their team. We need to be in tune with them. They need to be in tune with their workload balance, their mental health, etc. And if they realize something is off, they have to make those necessary changes to make sure everything is right. And this is where a leader needs to be attentive to not just the functions and the tasks of the team, but they need to be attentive to the team members. More importantly, because these are the individuals who are responsible for doing the task. So take the necessary steps to develop a healthy work-life balance. It can be difficult, it can be challenging at times. But as a supervisor and that empathetic leader, which is a trait that I really like, you can help your team and yourself by building pathways to make these changes. So here are some things, if you are a leader, here are some things that you can do to improve your team work-life balance. So 1, remind them to unplug. So encourage your team to leave their laptops or turn off their laptops. If they got work phones, leave all that stuff at home when they go on vacation. How many of you, or how many people that you know are on vacation, but they have their phone answering emails, or they have their computer, oh, I need to have this meeting real quick, or I need to sit in this meeting, or I need to do X, Y, and Z. But you're on vacation. Enjoy the vacation. You earned that time. It is your time. Take it. Take it for what it's worth. You deserve that. Give your employees a place to connect. So you can organize happy hours. You can have birthday gatherings. And what I mean, like if you have a lounge in the office and you know it's one of your team members' birthday, you all can get together, have something there, or you can go, somewhere to eat for lunch and, and make it a little birthday party. Some people like to talk about book clubs. Some people like to have book clubs and other things that's going to build your organizational cohesion, to build that camaraderie. And it's a social gathering that allows you, again, to decompress during a workday. So you can take and put your lunch break on the calendar. And so in the process of doing all that, you can eat too. So you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can kind of have sort of like a happy lunch hour per se. It's very good. It's good to break up the monotony during the day because it can be a little complicated sometimes and a little stressful. Also, educate your employees on their benefits. So remind your team that sick leave and PTO is part of their compensation. Just remind them of that. Again, as I mentioned, they earned it and they need to make sure they take advantage of it. Like in retrospect, in the real world, like some organizations, you only can carry so many hours over to the next fiscal year. If you carry more than that over, you wind up losing them. Make sure they take those hours. Again, they earned that. That is their compensation. So when it comes time for them taking off, allow them to take off. There may be some circumstances where they can't take off at a certain time, and I get that. But if the vast majority of their time and they have it and they can afford to take it off, how's that going to hurt you? That means if they have a workload, well, you're the supervisor. So you probably can do some of it and spread the wealth amongst the other team members. But allow that person to do what he or she needs to do. So check with your teammates, your team members, your direct reports. So check with them, make sure they're doing okay. In the process, like you have regular check-ins with them, to talk about work and, things of that nature, but don't be afraid to ask about their well-being. How many times do people do that? They may talk about work and task and, things of that nature and, how's your family doing? But what about your well-being? How are you? How are you physically, mentally, and emotionally? And pay attention to those expressions. Pay attention to the words that are not being said. Pay attention to their delivery flow of how their words come out of their mouth. You have to pay attention to all this. Pay attention to not their norm, like missing deadlines or lack of response to emails or whatever the case may be. They may be overwhelmed with something, but we're so blind and we too busy mission-oriented and task-oriented that we fail to see that one of our team members is suffering right before our very eyes. So check in on them and make sure you check on their well-being instead of, how far are you with that task? Okay, well, you have 2 more days and I need X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, that's great. But how are they doing? Also, set an example for your team. Take meetings again, back to outside or even walking around a building. If you can, you're doing it in a virtual environment. Take it while you're walking somewhere. If you're in a Zoom meeting, I know a lot of people have this when they're in their Zoom meetings or Teams meetings or whatever it is. If it's a small meeting with just your team, they probably met your kids. Kids like to run around the house. They probably met your dog Rover. Rover comes in front of the screen, or Rover barks up a storm. It's okay. It's okay. Build that culture that it is okay. Like, we're one big happy family. We are a team and we function like that. Like, we know no one is a robot. So we know people have lives, especially again, if you're working in that environment and you hear the dogs bark. Okay, well, bring Toto, let us see Toto. So Toto up or whoever it is and let Toto say hi or whatever the case may be. So you want to kind of allow them to decompress and feel humanized while they're working, and realize that while you're at work, it doesn't have to be about work 8 hours a day, because that is essential. And then another thing that, I like to do sometime, like on my phone, there's a couple games that I use it takes about 2 minutes to play or whatever, but I use those for me as outlets. So I'll play a quick 2-minute game and cut up the monotony as the work pressure is coming on or whatever the case may be, or to break up the monotony of what I'm doing. And then once I'm done with the game, it allows me to refocus and continue back on my task. Also, be aware of company cultures and norms. And this is an interesting one to me. So try not to normalize instant messaging culture. We in teams, instead of picking up the phone, we'll send a message. We don't get over video. If you're in an environment, we'll send a message over Teams or we'll send an email. If you continue to do that and not have team meetings, like virtual meetings, it'll kind of create a separation amongst you and your teams. So keep that. So try not to normalize instant messaging culture, because, that's really not a good culture. And make it clear that messages sent off hours do not require immediate response, and avoid interacting with someone's personal life. So let me tell you, this one company that I work for, which is very interesting, they had a habit it was a small company, and the people were somewhat tight-knit. It was a small company, and they had this culture of sending Teams messages, at 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock, 2 in the morning. I'm not making this stuff up. And not only do they send messages, people respond. Why? Because if the CEO sends a message at 2 in the morning, some people feel obligated to respond. And so I had to tell one of my team members, I'm like, look, I said, have you ever noticed if there's a message after hours or on weekends, I don't respond? I say, if someone asks me a question at 10 o'clock on a Friday, have you noticed I waited till Monday to respond? There was a reason, because that was my time. It wasn't a place where I'm on the clock 24/7. Those were my time. So a culture was created that became the expectation. And so that sets a bad precedent. So keep that in mind when you're doing that. Another thing that's very important that I mentioned this in the past, is quote unquote your time. So on my calendar, my work calendar, I have an hour allotted once a week titled Your Time. And what that means is, for my team, whatever they want to do during that hour, they can do it. If they want to take a nap, if they wanted to go for a run, go to the gym, read a book, watch a TV show, during that hour, it was their choice to do whatever they want to do. It allows them sometime during the week to have an hour out of their workday to kind of decompress. And then after that hour is over, we're back. We're still on the clock, but once the hour is over, then back to business as usual, and we handle our business. And the last thing, as a supervisor, what you can do is respect working hours. And this is just so wrong on a lot of cases because people don't do it. Now, try not to schedule meetings before or after working hours. People do this, and if they schedule at the end of the workday, it's a good chance, depending on what time it's scheduled, it can bleed over into the next or into the off time. So that has that's a problem. But understanding that you have employees on different time zones, or when you dealing with people, all across the U.S. or in different countries, that can be a little complicated, and I get that. So if that's the case, make sure they get compensated for it. But at the end of the workday, make sure they're done. And also, they disengage. At the end of the day, the designated time, they disengage and they go about their personal life at that point. Also check on those individuals who you notice consistently working overtime or after work. For whatever reason, they still working. And, it becomes a problem. So just keep that in mind. When that happens. But that is work-life balance. And I wanted to take a moment to share that with you all about the work-life balance, because we all need it. We're not superhuman, right? We go through things. We have, stress. Sometimes we have stress and we don't realize we have stress. Sometimes your team members have stress and they don't realize that they're stressed out too. So pay attention to yourself, pay attention to your team. I thank you for taking the time out of your day to sit and have this with me, this live session. So again, I appreciate you all, and I appreciate what you do, and I'm very grateful for all of you. So thank you again, and you all enjoy the rest of your day.